at the top of the prone paddle racers as the SUP paddlers are in line and holding their marks.
And they've got to start. Okay, so they're underway. 24 women in this category. And you're going to see really who's going to take the lead out here.
Exciting start there. One of the paddlers in the middle nearly goes down as she kind of shuffles side to side. And we've got our paddler on the far side out with a quick sprint. And remember, we've got 24 in this race, so it's going to be a lot more spread out. We're going to have a lot more of that family feeling as they're on that first trek of the paddle just to get through to the bridge, and then we'll start to see some separation from the women.
And you see the women, they got their camelbacks, they got their hydration. Some wear it on their waist, on the back, some wear it on their chest. It's a personal preference. I've done both. You know, sometimes you get chafing underneath the arms when you get the chest camelback, and some prefer, you know, around the waist so you don't avoid that chafing. You see some of the competitors wearing Lycra long sleeves. A majority of them are not, so they're just in their singlets, their yellow singlets, their race singlets.
Yeah, that's a great thing to think about. You know, the physical toll that it's taking as well as the uniforms that they're wearing. And paddling out, they would be trying to start out dry so that they're not wet, with that rubbing on their arms, rubbing on their legs as well. But you have to imagine that at some point within this, you may see, you know, a paddler fall. They end up in the ocean. Then their uniform is wet. And there's so many different things to consider from a comfort perspective, and the things that really make a difference when you're paddling 18 kilometers.
Yeah, I believe that's Jenny Combach in the lead. Esperanza is in second place on the starboard. Here we go. Our women are coming around La Ocho. They'll be heading out to the Fiji Rock Island. They'll be making a left-hand turn and going towards the mouth of the harbor here in San Juan. So a full lap around San Juan Island, and there's the first buoy turn out on that right-hand break of Fiji Rock. Overcast skies, so that's really good right now. It's not the direct heat that we've had the last 3 days in the SUP surfing for men and women.
Yeah, it's great conditions today. We do have a storm that's forecast to roll through mid-afternoon, so we'll see if that actually arrives on time with the forecast. It means that possibly towards the end of this women's race, and for sure during the men's race, which will only kick off at 12 o'clock this afternoon, that we could see some rain, some heavy winds coming through, and that's going to add that extra degree of difficulty, really pushing the limits for both endurance, for that physical side of things, as well as the mental side for each of our paddlers today.
Yeah, I'm seeing 7 women here, and they're trying to form a train, and they're trying to break off on that pack of 8 earlier when they started.
And the SUP paddlers just going past the Sizzler there before they approach this first
Sizzler
bridge.
is still alive?
It's still alive here in Puerto Rico.
I thought it passed, you know, once we entered the 2000s, there was no more Sizzlers.
So strong paddles there, and you can see how low those bridges are. I'm so curious to watch our paddlers, our stand-up paddlers specifically, as they approach. Now, those 2 bridges that we can see in view, one, you can just see the other one underneath, that is the bridges that they'll cross over on their way on the back side of the island. They would have already passed through the whole ocean side of the island, back through the harbor, and they'll come through that to come back through this lagoon. They're going to be heading over to the to the right side, and that will be the Avenida that they'll be passing through, Avenida Ashford, for that first bridge. And for the prone race, we've got some different techniques for paddling that are allowed. You're allowed to paddle either on your stomach, like actually prone, or up on your knees. There's no penalties involved for paddling on your stomach for too long or for on your knees for too long.
Now, this is more of a sprint paddle when you're on your knees. You'll see a lot of the Aussies and the Kiwis, and they're more like that. More the American style is like our racer number 2 right now. We can't get too close to them to find their race number to exact. But you see how first and third were on their knees and went prone, and number 2 was prone. Now she's on her knees. So they're going to be jockeying back and forth. And what we're seeing here is with our lead group, you can see our first lady in front. She looked back at number 2 there and say, hey, you want to come up? You want to lead? And so they could be working together as a team, but once we get down to the 17K mark, all bets are off.
That's right. It'll be that full sprint, finish the race in front of the rest of the pack. And I love just seeing that swap between the two on their knees down to their stomachs, the one on her stomach up to her knees. So some great paddling going on here for the front of our pack. And there you can see we've got water patrol going around with the paddlers throughout the entire race. We've got jet skis for assist and emergency purposes, but also just to make sure that everyone's abiding by the rules, that they're heading around those buoys. No one's taking shortcuts past the buoys in any way. And so there's a whole team of ISA officials that are going to be out on the water throughout today's racing.
Yeah, we're 16 minutes into the women's paddleboard race, about 5.5 minutes into the stand-up race for our women. And here's a beautiful drone shot. This is where they're going to be coming. So they just rounded Fiji Rock. So you can see Fiji Rock where the surf site competition. And let's give you a weather report right now. It's about 2 to 3 feet. Swell direction still out of the north. Light winds, almost offshore winds here. Southeasterly winds blowing right now. As Shannon said, low tide still yet to come at 11:30, about a half a foot. And we won't have to deal with the high tide conditions. And the air temperature is pretty warm. Water temperature very warm down here in San Juan.
Yeah, it's some very warm water. So for our paddlers, shouldn't be getting too cold today. There is that breeze, though, so if they get wet, especially for the prone paddlers, you'd expect, their arms are going to be getting wet. If they're wearing that long lycra, they're definitely going to be getting some wet material against their skin the whole time. And with the wind up today, you could see that as a chill factor, but it's not going to be one of those really cold races that they've experienced before in countries like Denmark, where it's so cold, you're wearing full wetsuits. I mean, imagine the difference in the freedom that comes with being able to paddle here in a beautiful place like Puerto Rico with a warmer climate and warmer ocean without needing to wear that thick bit of neoprene compared to races in colder parts of the world.
Yeah, and you got to worry about dehydration too. You got to hydrate during these races. A lot of these prone paddlers, they actually have a place to put a water bottle out in front of them. Just like bicycle racers do. They have the water bottle. You probably rarely see a camelback on a prone paddler. You're going to see more of those on the stand-up paddles. As we panning on over, looking at that second group of 4. This is the mid-pack of the women's prone distance. They're 18 minutes into their race.
And they're just starting to come around that zone of Fiji Rock. So they rounded that first buoy, which was still out pretty far off the tip of this east side of San Juan Island that they're paddling around. And so they're now approaching Fiji Rock to round it where our surf competition and our paddle racing competition has been for the last few days.
So welcome to the 2022 ISA World Stand-Up and Paddleboard Championships. And this is our first look all week long. We haven't seen the prones. Well, the prones are going to be going today and tomorrow. Their tech race coming up tomorrow along with the junior tech race here at La Ocho. So they've been itching to get in and start racing.
There we go. And there's our second pack now starting to head towards Fiji Rock. That's what you've seen if you've been tuning into competition over the last few days for the sprint racing, the technical racing, as well as the surfing. And they're going to round that headland. And then it's going to be a pretty straight shot for the tip of the island where they're going to round Castilla San Felipe de Moro, and they are going to head towards the harbor as we can check out our SUP surfers getting themselves out into the harbor. So they passed through that first bridge at Avenida Ashford, and they're now out into the open ocean.
Yeah. Look at that lead group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll call it 6. Then the second pack is about 2 pairs of 2s, a couple of solos back behind there. So 24 women make up the field here in the distance racing for the stand-up. And we're going to have the cream of the crop. Esperanza, the defending gold medal champion. Look out for Lena Agaitis. Lena Ribeiro, also from Brazil. April Zilg and Stephanie Schidler from the United States will be some top contenders. Amadine Chazot, she's always in that league group. So we got some of the world's best stand-up women here racing today in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
That's right. All well on their way to track around that first buoy. And Bo, with that, I'll go ahead and read through the list along with their numbers. Now, it's difficult for us, for those of you tuning in back home, to be able to identify every different athlete. It's hard to see the numbers. A lot of them are wearing those packs on their backs. And so we're just not able to get that close enough angle to see, but we'll do our best to identify them. But for those of you tuning in back home, these are your friends, your family, your teammates, so you'll know who they are. And we've got number 51, Melanie Lafayette from France, holds out that number 1 seed place for Team France, taking out their victory back in El Salvador in 2019 for the overall teams for all of the SUP and Paddleboard championships. Number 80, Amandine Chazon, also from France, so those 2 French paddlers. And in the SUP side of the racing for distance, we do have 2 paddlers per country that are able to enter instead of just the single on the prone side of it, as we see our paddlers starting to round that first buoy. So some great technique coming through from them. Number 34, Esperanza Barreras from Spain, as you said, Bo. Number 30, Duna Gordillo from Spain as well. The 2 Americans, 82 is April Zilg, and 109 is Stephanie Schidler, thank you. Number 15 from Italy, Laura Del Ponte, and the other Italian, Cecilia Pompanelli, will be in number 16. From Brazil, number 10 is Lena Ribeiro, and number 89, Roselio Novlowski. From Japan, just a single paddler, number 2, Yu Tachibana. From Argentina, 2 paddlers, number 29 will be Maria Jose Fonticelli, and number 22 will be Alma Coleta Spagna. From Puerto Rico, our 2 local paddlers from the island. Number 5, Camila Amador, and number 6, Amelie Matos. Number 23 from Panama, the only paddler from Panama, Stephanie Bowden. Then 2 paddlers from Mexico. Number 27 will be Mariana Carrasco, and number 11, Daniela Garcia. 2 Kiwi paddlers from New Zealand. Number 66 is Brianna Ormas, and number 28 is Stella Smith. And then our 2 Costa Rican paddlers, number 88, Michelle Fuentes, and number 39, Jennifer Kalmbach. And then from Chinese Taipei, a single paddler, number 26, is Zhou Chi Li. And from Canada, a single paddler, number 13, Lena Aguintas, will round out the race.
Lena Aguintas, she's the gold medal winner in Nicaragua in a grueling heat. We had Shea Foudy place 4th, and she almost passed out on the podium when she was getting her copper medal from Nicaragua. So Lena Aguintas, even though she's from Canada, she's competed and performed well in the heat. Looks like Esperanza is right there on the starboard, and that could be Jen Combat. I'm trying to make out the board. That's an NSP board. So you got the cream of the crop out in the lead. Another NSP board in 3rd place. We'll try to make her out.
Some nice technique. You can see here these paddlers taking those real long strokes, and our paddler in the middle starting to gain some distance quickly over the paddler on her left-hand side. Nice long strokes as they're just trying to gain that distance, switching from side to side as well, making sure to relieve some muscles on one side of the body and engage muscles on the other side of the body.
Yeah, just trying to make out these 2, because I know Esperanza has a starboard, and her technique looks like that. So we're going to go with that for right now. You can see the Water Patrol. We've even got the police on duty.
And we are 14 minutes into the SUP distance racing, and great to see that from the Water Patrol out in the water.
Yeah, we're about 25 minutes into the women's prone, too. So about a 10-minute leeway time between the prone and the stand-up, and you can see the field starting to spread out of the field of 24.
That's right. That field is spreading out as that top pack, taking that inside rail, is starting to approach Fiji Rock. And now you can see that there's a little boil here on the bottom side of the screen from a little rock that's also protruding there. And the women will see that as they're starting to paddle towards it. They'll make sure to paddle wide of that rock.
There's our lead group. This is the second pack, okay. So stand corrected. So you got a pack of 3 in front, and you got a pack of 3 in 4, 5, and 6. There's our lead group right now. And then beautiful drone shot showing you 1 and 2 out in front, and then that pack of 3 for 3rd, 4th, and 5th now. And you got a couple of solo paddlers up north to the left as they approach Fiji Rock.
And if you're tracking along on your maps at home, whether it's on your on your computer map possibly, it's a great way to track where these paddlers are at as they head around the island, and to be able to see some of the locations for things that they'll be passing by. The first neighborhood that they're coming up to is Puerta de Tierra, and that is the neighborhood in that surrounding Fiji Rock area. As you can see, some surfers out in the water waiting for the next set to roll through.
Yeah, and cheering on the women as they go by. He was clapping for them. That's our lead boat. We've got our head water safety guiding our women around this course. 18 kilometers, roughly just over 11 miles. Not only with a lead boat, but many jet ski, water patrol, safety, Auto Flores, and the Puerto Rican Surf Life Saving group here.
And if you're just tuning in, we are in the day 7 of our ISA World SUP and Paddleboard Championships here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Today is the distance races for both prone and for stand-up paddling. We're starting out with our women's race, and we'll be heading into our men's race at the finish of the women's.
Yeah, men's race roughly starting at 12 noon. They're going to be in the grueling heat out on the course. The wind line may have filled in by then, but the women taking advantage of the calm conditions here early in the morning on this Friday.
Yeah, it's a beautiful time for them to be out in the water. I'm sure that as much as they're in focus mode, they're also just trying to enjoy every moment of it. They get to paddle such a beautiful part of the world. The water is so clean and clear as you're out in it. And so for them, this is a great opportunity to enjoy the sights and the sounds, as well as keeping their head down low, keeping that technique in form, and making it around the different headlands that they'll be approaching.
Yeah, good cadence for the women out here. You know, look at their technique. Really driving that paddle through, getting a full stroke in. They'll switch sides from left side. You know, they'll take about 8-10 strokes on each side, then switch sides. So there's our lead pack of 1st and 2nd. Here are some more paddlers coming around La Ocho and Fiji Rock.
And there you can see our stand-up paddlers starting to catch up to the prone paddle racers. And by the end of this race, or approaching pretty soon, we may see those stand-up paddlers start to overpass the prone paddlers, being that it's just a little bit quicker to paddle with a paddle in hand, opposed to in that prone position. And so we will expect to see those two races overlap, and for those stand-up paddlers to be passing the prone paddlers, which is why we give those prone paddlers the head start.
We missed the all-time champion, the 5-time champion, Jordan Mercer. Jordan was just a legend in surf lifesaving in the Iron Women's Series down in Australia. And she's carved a knack in the Molokai to Oahu Paddleboard World Championships in Hawaii, winning that multiple times. I believe 5-6 times there too. But anytime Jordan Mercer is on the paddleboard, of course, she comes from a history of her dad and uncle were Uncle Toby Ironman racers. And there's a field of our men that's going to be coming up later today.
Yeah, we got some great, these will be our prone paddlers. So again, it's just one paddler per nation represented. And we'll have a decent sized field there, including some names that our crowd at home will be familiar with in tuning in to cheer on. So that will be great to see. Now the men's race won't begin until roughly 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock on the schedule. We were about 18 minutes behind schedule for the start of the women's paddle. We were looking to try and kick things off at 8 a.m., started around 8:18 a.m. So we'll probably be a little bit later on the men's side, but we'll just have to wait and see how that's unfolding. But it'll be a great afternoon for them to be hitting the water. And they'll also be in there with the stand-up paddlers, who will be starting about 5 minutes after the prone men start.
Yeah, looking at that list of men's prone paddlers, we got two-time defending champion Hunter Pfluger, and I paddled with Hunter down in Hawaii Kai. They've got a good group. Of course, his dad, Alan Pfluger, getting all the juniors into not only prone paddling and stand-up paddling, but outrigger canoe paddling, one-man and six-man paddle groups. He's got a good little junior group, and Hunter's kind of the king of the Groms now. But he's grown up, graduated from college, and a two-time defending champion, winning in China and El Salvador. So he'll be a tough competitor to beat.
Now taking a look at that beautiful landscape, we've got Old San Juan on San Juan Island here in view. That first castle on the left-hand side that's just exiting the screen is Castillo San Cristobal. And then the far castle, that's the point where our paddlers will be heading around the headland. That is Castillo San Felipe del Moro, and those are both part of the National Parks Service and part of the U.S. National Parks. So if you got a National Parks pass, get here to Puerto Rico because you'll be able to enter those sites for free. Beautiful areas to walk around and some history in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we've got a friend joining us in the booth, Ben Way, with some history there from Old San Juan. We'll bring Ben in just a moment once we get his mic switched on, and he'll be able to add some color to this conversation as we've got a battle for first right now, Bo, in the prone racing.
Yeah, we apologize. We can't make out the numbers and we can't identify them, but these two are working really hard. They're stroking. They're on their knees. They're in a sprint position right now as they go here. Maybe one's trying to break away. Maybe they're working as a team. You can get a side draft off the leader right there. So we see our women working on side drafts.
Now, can you explain side draft to our audience?
Yeah, you can see the train as the women paddle. The water flares out behind them, but there's a little wake that our lead paddler on the top is creating, and the lady next to her on her right can actually ride that bump, and she's paddling less. See, she's just cruising, working off the wake of our leader.
Okay, I like that. I like this little bit of possible teamwork. Maybe we'll see them kind of switching in those positions. And you'd expect there to be a lot of communication going down between them as well, as they're head down and they're paddling hard, but they're definitely making the job easier working together as that front pack.
She's got about the lead pack about 20, maybe 30 meters ahead of our position of number 3 there. If we can see making the turns. This is our lead group of women's SUP racers right now. So 23 minutes into the women's stand-up portion. And for the women on the prone division, we're about 33 minutes into their race.
So they've got a little bit of distance to pick up on to catch those top 2 prone racers.
All right, we're going to bring on Ben. Ben, what tasty little nuggets did you find?
Got my audio?
Yeah,
all
got
right,
you
cool.
there.
I have no headset. As you can see, that beautiful, colorful scenery on the background, that is Viejo San Juan's, El Viejo Barrio de San Juan. And so there was probably one of the most famous reggaeton music videos in history, Despacito, by Luis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee, that any reggaeton or Latin music aficionado will recognize and love. So that town was actually, up until the filming of that in 2017, wasn't as colorful, and they actually made it more colorful for the filming of that video, and it stayed that beautiful, colorful monument right there on the edge of town. And we were there last night. It's all built by the Spanish. It looks like any town in Spain. It's beautiful brick ground, and we went to a local artist that's very famous Charlie Ramirez, known as Tochi, and he used to be a pro surfer from here in Puerto Rico. Amazing art gallery exhibition. And guess what, Bo? They had your favorite Santurce Brewing IPA for free. We had an open bar. I don't know if I'm able to. So here we go. We are starting to look at the fort, and as we drift over to the left side, just off to our left where you can't see on the screen is that colorful town, and that is a cool little point of history, and this place is just amazing. We've been spending a lot of time right in this little area right here.
I love that. I love that they painted the buildings to just add that color for us walking through this week, getting some time off, having dinner in town. It's been a beautiful part to check out, and I've loved seeing that color pop through the walls as well.
Did you notice the sort of like pinkish, reddish color? They call that guava color. And so they call it color guayaba, which is very cool. It's a very unique name of a color that I've heard for the first time in Spanish.
Incredible. And now, Ben, when you're outside walking around on the beach, could you see these paddlers coming around Fiji Rock?
Yeah, you can. They're really close, actually. And so there's actually paddlers just inside of the jet skiers that you see on screen that are practicing in the surf area. A couple people around there, and they're really not very far from these guys. So they're really close to the shore as they come around that rock.
Amazing, which is going to mean it's going to be a great view for anyone that is in around the island today, whether it's teams that are driving around the island to different points to be able to cheer on and shout from the bluffs even, or for locals that are watching the race.
The funny thing is if you are in that Viejo Barrio San Juan looking at the ocean towards us, as you watch the racers pass, you have time to walk down the road, down the hill, all the way to the other side into the bay, into the harbor where we're going to see them pass again. So you could actually see them pass in 2 points on foot.
I love that. Get your steps in, get to see where the paddlers are coming on both sides of things.
So we're getting some communication from our lead boat. We can tell you Spain is first and second right now. We've got the team of Duna Gordillo and Esperanza working in the lead. Jen Comeback from Costa Rica in third place, and it looks like our team of French paddlers of Melanie and Amadine are in fourth and fifth at this stage. As you see on screen right now, these are our top two women in the prone division, and their time hitting 37:48 as we speak.
That's right, and those results you just listed out specifically are for the SUP paddlers. So that's our current rundown for who is sitting in the lead on the SUP side. Duna Gordillo currently sitting in the lead, which is very impressive. And like you said,
Esperanza, her teammate. So the Spanish are working off each other in the lead, and also the French are two ladies of Melanie and Amadine. They're in fourth and fifth place, and they're side by side too. So they're working off their own training partners.
Love that. Love that teamwork together. And that specifically on the SUP stand-up side of things, that they do get to have two paddlers per nation in there, so they can have that teamwork.
Yeah, we're going to see that, especially with the French in Noik and Titu. Maybe Ty Judson will be working with Michael Booth coming up in the men's. And it's going to be exciting, but right now our attention on the women. You can see a mix of prone paddlers being spread out down the line here as they're coming around to Old Town in San Juan. Prone paddlers approaching the 40-minute mark, so they've got another good hour to go.
Yeah, they still have a lot of work to be doing within this. And yeah, they're going to have some distance to travel. And we're going to continue to have Ben in and out of here, giving us some updates, filling us in with some local knowledge as well that he's picked up from some friends, and continuing to fill in with some color, which we're so thankful for over the next little while. And that outside buoy they're starting to pass by now, that's that buoy that's about... It's roughly halfway from the last buoy that they crossed over as they were heading out into the ocean before they came through Fiji Rock. They're about halfway there to the end of the island where they're going to make that turn around the castle and start heading in towards the harbor.
So time in this for the women's stand-up, 29 minutes, 15 seconds and counting.
So still heaps of time on the clock for them to get through. They do have they have to finish the race within 3 hours, correct?
Yeah, I think at that point, if they're still out on the race course after 3 hours, they may ask them to jump into the water safety boat. But pretty much, yeah, I would say. You see the time approaching half hour, so a good another hour plus for our top paddlers. And here we go. I believe that is Duna right now on the NSP.
Out in front, making some great distance. Nice, strong paddling. You can see that she's got a long stroke, but it doesn't seem like it's too elongated. And our leader for the women's SUP distance race.
Yeah, she was paddling with her teammate Esperanza. And she's broken away from her right now.
Solid paddling from
There she
Duna
is.
Gordillo and Esperanza just chasing behind.
Yeah, so there's first and second. Spain sitting in first and in second place. So Esperanza trying to catch up her teammate Duna. Just about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a 5-board lead. These women are riding about 14-foot boards. You can see Duna, she's in the dugout. And so is Esperanza.
Duna, 19 years old, from Durango, and loves paddling. She paddled back in the World Championships in 2019, had a great finish there in El Salvador. She's been doing stand-up paddling for 10 years in the same training club in Port Adriano. And she loves to be accompanied by her colleagues and her friends. So for her, being part of this team unit here for the ISAs is really special.
Yeah, we just got an update for our prone paddlers as we're watching our top SUP women paddle by. We've got Japan, Eureka, and also Spain in the mix there with Judith Vargas. But here's Team Spain. So it's Spain leading in the women's SUP and in the women's prone. And we knew Spain would be a powerhouse when they came here to the ISAs. And teamwork. You can see Esperanza now catching up. She had about a 5-board trail back there from Duna. Spanning the horizon.
And there you can see some of the men out just having paddle. We will have some juniors in the water tomorrow for the tech races. And we'll have the men stand-up paddlers coming up later today. And they'll just catching some waves on the inside, having some fun. Now, as you can see how far out to sea, they're close enough to where Ben was saying that it does feel like they're pretty close to the shoreline here. But there you could really get that check for the distance of how deep they're paddling now.
Yeah, there's Duna on the left. There's Esperanza on the right. First and second in the women's distance race. Esperanza, the defending gold medal champion from 2019 in El Salvador. All right, we're going to give you, you can see prone paddlers on the bottom of the screen. You can see the jet ski water patrol. And I believe this is our lead group of prone paddlers. So out going towards the castle, you're going to see our Japanese and our Spanish team going side by side.
And
the cemetery, and this is the old cemetery. They say there's over 1,000 graves there, and the reason they put this on facing out to the Atlantic is they were very serious about the fear of death, because in death it was from war. And so they said to help with the transition between life and death, they kind of sent them off facing the ocean. Very, very cool thing. And I'm trying to find the exact name of the old cemetery. I've got it right here. And that is the Santa Maria Magdalena de Pazis Cemetery. And all of these structures have been here for the castle's been here for 500 years. And so while we're out here, we're right there. It's next door to the castle. We might as well give you a little bit on the castle. The castle was built 500 years ago by the Spanish with the first colonization of the island, and it was recognized as one of the marvels of engineering, and that they were able to build this structure on the end of the ocean. And this was the biggest protection for the Spanish during the Spanish-American War, and later for the Americas, as that was the first place that you would reach as you were coming from the Americas and from the Caribbean.
Incredible. I love that bit of information. It's such a beautiful sight now that we're able to take a walk through as we see our two prone paddlers just right there side by side with each other. For Spain, Judith Verges, and for Japan, Eureka Horibe, who are fronting up as they come around the front of the fort.
Yeah, let's see how close they get to the shallows here, because if they can catch any type of bump coming into the harbor, that's going to be a huge advantage. And they're working off each other's wake as a side draft coming in. But these women are going to get close to the shallow reef right here, and it's just a beautiful scenic picture of our competitors. You can see third place. She's a good 100 meters back. As we span on out, you can see the water safety jet ski behind them. And we'll see if we can see any of our stand-up women of our team of Duna and Esperanza. Kind of glary there, so you're not going to be able to make that out, but these women are really hugging the coastline here. You want to take every advantage. You can see that swell is kind of moving left to right, so it's kind of pushing them towards the mouth of the harbor.
Yeah, it is pushing them straight into it, which is perfect. Now, they would have had that little bit of a side wave coming towards them, that side swell, the entire paddle along this straightaway from coming out of the lagoon at the start of the race, all the way around Fiji Rock there. You can see it way out in the distance. Now, that straightaway, you can see those swell lines the whole way through, which would have been just ever so slightly pushing them into that shoreline. So once they get around this headland, it's going to be a much cleaner, easier race for them towards the finish.
Yeah, 47 minutes in for these women right now, our lead pack of the women's prone. And they're not even halfway through the course right now. And they're doing great time, working together. I think it's harder to be out by yourself, but when you've got someone else pushing you and you're working as a team, as these two are, they're just going to lengthen themselves from the rest of the pack.
That's right. And there's also that motivation of wanting to do it as quickly as possible to get those personal time records and really try to complete a race like this of 18 kilometers as fast as they can. And so for those two, having that as another goal, just another element added into alongside of the gold or the silver medals to be able to walk away the winners here. Using that encouragement of working side by side with someone, even if you're from different nations, you're from different parts of the world, and you're not actually on the same team, is such a helpful aspect to this and really adds to that full experience for our paddlers in the water.
Okay, they're rounding the last shallow rocks here, so they'll be in some sheltered area inside the harbor, away from the onshore winds and what little wind there is out there. Ben, last time you were out there, it was kind of an offshore wind here at La Ocho, wasn't it?
Yeah, you know what? It was actually like really still, really muggy in the morning. Now it's starting to clear up. We see those clouds being blowing away by the wind. So this is great. This is a great sign for a day of competition with beautiful weather. Keep these beautiful colors. This is known as the Island of Enchantment, and you can see why. I mean, I'm just in love with this view right now.
It is so beautiful. Castillo San Felipe del Moro. And like you said, it's a 16th century citadel located here on the island of San Juan. And it's just such a beautiful location to be able to spend some time at. As we can see our paddlers just working their way around the front of the headland here and into the harbor. And that's a pretty crazy stretch of rocks right there, just acting as that barrier for the tip of the island.
It really is. And as we saw those first two leaders really hugging these little outside rocks, this little, what looks like almost like a natural jetty that's kind of formed around here. I mean, if they would have passed through with this set coming through, they would have gotten washed right into those rocks. We see a lot more swell kind of pushing in. And as they round that corner, just as you're saying, they get all of that swell just behind them, and we're starting to kind of see how that's helped them into the mouth of the harbor, into that smooth water. They'll be able to recharge their batteries.
That's so true. Now, Ben, you've been around paddleboarding and stand-up paddling for longer than I have. Thinking of that wind factor, now for the prone paddlers, it doesn't seem like it would be as much of an issue because they're right on the surface of the water. But for those stand-up paddlers, if they've got that headwind or that downwind with them, it's really going to come into play.
It's a huge factor. And as a board designer, I'm always thinking of aerodynamics as well as the hydrodynamics. So you're thinking about the flow under the board, but you have to always consider that everything that's above the surface of the water. And I do a lot of body surfing, and when it's too offshore to paddle into a wave of the board as you get blown over the back, as you're low down to the surface, it doesn't become a factor. So that's going to be a very different thing, and I think the prone paddlers will be able to conserve energy much more as that wind doesn't affect them as they change angles.
Especially as they come towards the finish of the race, because now we've got our front two paddlers for Team Spain and for Team Japan, Judith and Eureka, rounding the castle and looking to enter into the harbor. But you can see that that wind is starting to get a little bit more choppy. And maybe even though those currents of wind are flaring up just because of that headland. So right out there on the tip of the headland, you'll see a little bit more wind. Where out on the flats in the ocean or back inside the harbor, you won't notice it as much.
Yeah, so the fact that we do have some swell, I mean, I'm sure they're actually really glad. You would think, as someone who doesn't paddle, you're like, the flatter the water, the faster and the easier, right? But as you're coming around, and this is a complete circle course, so you're getting every direction, not to mention the wind and the swell direction. So that's definitely going to be something that's appreciated, I think, coming into that harbor. And for all of the competitors, I don't think they would have been expecting this amount of swell.
Yeah, we're seeing a mix of stand-up and prone coming around the point here. Beautiful shot. The graveyard facing out to the ocean in the north. Still some more prone paddlers. We can tell you that Judith from Spain, she was a silver medalist in China in 2018, also competed in 2019, and Eureka also competed for Team Japan. They're 1 and 2. We got word now Italy is in third place in the women's prone. Cornelia Regatti. Now we're starting to see our Spaniards in the women's SUP lead right here.
Nice, solid paddling. And you can see that swell as they're starting to head around. Like Ben was saying, that little push is going to be so helpful. Those bumps coming through to just give them that little bit of relief and that little bit of acceleration as they round the headland.
Yeah, Duna's in the lead for Team Spain. Her teammate Esperanza is in second place. We see Ginny Combat from Costa Rica in third. So we're panning around the old cemetery here and showing you the rest of the women on the course. No white caps, wind line, not playing a factor. You can see the coconut tree just beyond the cemetery, barely even moving. So clean, calm conditions for our paddlers, which is a factor. You could overheat in this.
Yeah, you really could. And you can actually see the difference in how glassy it is right here where our paddlers are at the bottom of the screen on the ocean side, as opposed to the paddlers entering into the harbor where that texture on that water really starts to pick up and that wind is kind of whipping around on the headland here. So you'll just notice that a little bit. They'll be feeling it on their paddle, but once they get around the tip of this headland, they'll be back into glassy water, I think, in the harbor.
I believe these two women that we're seeing right there, that's the French team of Melanie and Amadine.
Nice bit of paddling from them, nice long strokes, staying really close to each other as well.
So you see first and second in the women's SUP, the Spanish team working together. In fact, they're forming their own train. Jenny Combat is taking a wide turn around the rock, and it looks like the French team, they're going to take that inside turn as Jenny's taking a wide turn.
Right.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 now forming a pack here. "44 minutes into the women's stand-up race, 54 minutes into the prone women's race. So they'll be paddling on the backside, the harbor side of San Juan Island, and back to the race course where they started. And then they'll come out underneath that bridge when they started again. When they round Fiji Island for a second time, they'll be making a left-hand turn to the finish line here at La Ocho. So they've gone the furthest away from us right now, Shannon, and now they're heading back inside the harbor.
And that's got to be a good feeling for them. You know, hitting this landmark specifically is a really solid thing for them to now be coming around and into the harbor and into that kind of clean stretch. Now, once they get through the harbor, we've got to remember that they have to go all the way through the harbor back underneath the two bridges, and then they have to paddle through Laguna del Condado, all the way through that lagoon and back out towards the Atlantic Ocean to round the headland again before they finish. So they're still not even halfway there, but they're on their way, as we've just received an update about the number of paddlers in the water.
Yeah, we told you earlier, Caroline Kunzel from Denmark did not start. We also have 3 other women from New Zealand, Brianna Armas, also our Japanese paddler Yu Tachibana, and Cecilia, the 16-year-old from Italy, Papaminella, did not start the race. So for whatever reason, maybe, they weren't ready for it, but that's perfectly fine. A beautiful shot of our women negotiating the furthest point out on the outside of the harbor mouth.
And we remember, for a lot of these paddlers, this is not the only discipline they're competing in. They've been competing in either the sprints or the technical race, or they've got, their own technical races on the prone or the junior side coming up tomorrow. Possibly some of them competing in the SUP surfing as well. And so that's a lot of energy that they've been using through the last few days in extreme heat as well, and the possibility for injuries to be popping up. And so for some of these paddlers, taking into consideration wanting to compete in everything, but also needing to recognize that need to pace themselves through to be in peak form for the discipline that they really want to be taking away a medal in.
Yeah, so we have 30 women out on the course, 9 in the prone division, 21 in the stand-up division, and we are approaching the 1 hour mark for our women in the prone division.
All right. That's a solid bit of time. And they're doing really well as they come around that headland. Remember, we will be going for a bit of a break between the men's and women's, with the men's starting out around 12 o'clock this afternoon. Prone also starting out first there, and then the SUP paddlers will be joining about 5 minutes into it. As we take a look at the beautiful view here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And there you can see back towards the mainland and the entrance to the harbor mouth.
There's some little waves off on the right hand as that swell pushes into the opening of the mouth.
Yeah, I noticed that a few days ago while I was up on the castle, and there's definitely a reef that's kind of sticking out there that's got some really fun looking waves to it. And that's one special thing about this entire coastline. Puerto Rico is littered with great waves. There are so many surf spots around, and it's been fun to check in with some of the staff members and the paddlers, the surfers this week, to hear about the spots that they've been driving to in their off days or the early mornings or the afternoons, to be able to check out more of the coastline and experience more and catch some more really good waves.
You see some weather down to the east side of the island, but here at La Ocho, that's where the surfing and the tech racing competition, you see where the tents are. You see some of the competitors practicing out in the surf zone. So they'll be going back to that start-finish area and going back underneath that bridge around Fiji Rock and then coming through for a finish. So there's the castle that they're rounding in. So they're on the backside, our top leaders, both prone and SUP, as we are just hitting the 1 hour mark for our women on the prone race, coming up on 49 minutes for our women in the stand-up division.
And we've just received an update from the boat that we still have Spain and Japan leading for the women's prone, with Italy in third. Now, the USA is up into fourth position now. Liz Hunter has joined that pack a little bit closer. We still have Italy Spain and Japan in the leading positions are still holding on to that first place. And then in the sub side, we have Esperanza and Duna, the Spanish paddlers, about 300 meters out in front of the rest of the pack, with Jenny still sitting in third.
Yeah, Jen Combach's great to see her back. She was one of the original women to win the Battle of the Paddle. So we are on day number 7 of competition, the long distance racing here on November the 4th. Tomorrow, the technical races for the prone and the junior technical races coming up on Saturday and Sunday. We'll have our exciting relay races and the award ceremony to round out this edition of the 2022 ISA World Sup and Paddleboard Championships. There's our lead group, our Spaniards. Now Esperanza has taken the lead over Duna, so they're sharing duties, and I like the teamwork that they're putting in here.
Yeah, this is great. And again, remember that by the end of this week, we're going to be crowning team gold medals as well, awarding the winners for, getting the highest points in total. So for a single team to have 2 of their paddlers well out in front in those positions, that's going to be very valuable points for Team Spain come the end of the week as those tallies are put together. And one of the benefits to walking away with the team gold medal specifically is that they will be the highest seeded team heading into next year's ISA World Championships.
Yeah, Team Spain leading in the prone, leading in the sub, so valuable points here. And I like the way these women are using each other and helping each other. Duna was pretty much pulling Esperanza on the ocean side, but now on the harbor side, Esperanza has taken the lead. And remember, Esperanza is the defending gold medal champion from 2019 in El Salvador.
That's right. And on our paddleboard side of things, Judith Verges from Spain, who's currently leading with Eureka from Japan. Judith took out the silver medal in the distance race back in 2018. So she would be, again, she's right in that race to finish for another silver, but she's got to have that extra bit of hunger now to want to walk away a gold medalist rather than just in second place.
Yeah, we got sight of April Zil. She's currently in 5th place, so she's chasing down the top 4 ladies. And remember, top 4 get medals: gold, silver, bronze, and copper. And look at Duna. Now Duna's going to lead the train here. They're tagging off, taking turns.
And it is so much bumpier coming around the harbor. I'm actually really surprised by that. I was thinking that, the ocean would be a little bit more exposed as they're out on the ocean side of the island. But coming through here, you can see now they're dealing with that chop up into their face. And especially for the prone paddlers, I mean, that's, water going straight into the face the entire time.
You see a mixture of SUP and prone here and the inside of the harbor. As we pan off to the left, you can see our SUP leaders right where it says 52 minutes into their race.
Now up onto her knees. And that's a nice thing for the prone paddling is that it can change positions, which gives that relief for the legs or for the back as well. As we can see, our 3rd place paddler for stand-up paddling in Jen, just out in front of the pack of 3, now in a train looking to catch up to Jen and put her right back in the mix with 4th, 5th, and 6th place paddlers.
Yeah, in that group of 4, 5, 6, we believe it's Melanie from France, April Zilg from the United States, and Lena Agaitis trailing in that pack. And Lena, a former gold medal winner in Nicaragua in 2014. And watching these women, they're kind of making these little snake S turns as they're coming in with this train.
Yeah, they're turning a lot more than I would have expected them to be, actually.
Yeah, see how they're snaking left to right, right to left, coming around. And even the prone women, look, they're 1 hour, 4 minutes into the race and still in that sprint style up on their knees. So this pack has caught up to Jenny Combach from Costa Rica. So now we have a pack of 4, and look how they're working on the train.
Yeah,
drafting.
That is great. Now, considering that we have 2 disciplines in together, they are not allowed to draft off of each other. The SUP paddlers can draft together. They can form their own trains, and the prone paddlers can form trains together. But they are not allowed to actually join in. So our prone paddler there on the right side can't join into that train. Now, she'll probably be feeling a little bit frustrated because that train is crossing over right in front of her, and they might even not realize necessarily what's happening. And we're going to go down to catch up with Ben Way on the beach with a special guest.
Thank you, Bo. Shannon. I'm here with Oscar Martinez Borras. He's the head of the Federation for Puerto Rico Surf. And he was also a competitor, a shortboard competitor in France in 2019. How do you see this event? I think it's been a complete success, and I'm sure everyone in the local people are very, very happy with how the event has gone. How do you see it in your eyes?
Definitely. Good morning, Ben. It's been a great event just having the ISA here in Puerto Rico. It's beautiful. We've had great conditions, some great conditions for the first days of the event. Then we had subsurf with awesome waves. And today we have that long distance race, which is pretty heavy, but we're all very happy. There's locals all around the island of San Juan just watching our suppers. And this is just a great event. We're very happy to have the ISA here in Puerto Rico.
And so in the early technical races, we had some of your stars. Mari Carmen Rivera did really well. How was your team feeling as far as the team morale?
They're feeling great. Mari Carmen qualified for the Pan American Games Chile 2023, and she also had a medal in the sprint race. And all our other guys, Ricardo Avila, the rest of the team have just done a great job. Max Torres and Dave de Armas, they got the semifinals in the Repper Charge. So I think that it's developing how we want it to, and in the next couple of years, you'll be sure to see those Puerto Ricans with more medals.
So in 2019, we had the first Olympic inclusion for surfing scheduled for Tokyo 2020 before the pandemic. Could you imagine a year later, while you were in France, that surfing was going to be an Olympic sport?
Well, we knew that Fernando and all the ISA team was working hard for it, and that impossible dream that Fernando had, with the help of all his staff and all of you guys, was made possible. So since 2017 was actually the year that I surfed in France, and we've just been wanting that to happen, and it happened, and it's just helped the sport. Since it turned Olympic, all eyes have turned into surfing. The local Olympic Committee is supporting fully all of our sub-surfers, shortboard surfers. So it's really helped to develop the sport here in Puerto Rico.
And I'm hoping an event like this, a world championship in this beautiful Isla del Encanto, hopefully you have some more sponsors' money, a bigger budget to get your team riders in more international competitions.
Definitely. This ISA event just puts us on the map. Local sponsors and the Puerto Rico Tourism Company, which I have to thank, have backed up this event 100%. They want surfers to come to Puerto Rico to surf in our beautiful beaches. So this is what it's all about. We're very happy to have the whole world here, to have the ISA here in Puerto Rico, and we hope to have you back a couple more times in the near future.
Now looking forward, we have SUP being thought about for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, and so we have a lot of potential future Olympians here. How does that feel?
Definitely, that's the goal, and it just gives our younger generation something to strive for, and they're training hard. And if it does become an Olympic sport, I'm sure that's what they want to do. They all want to be Olympians. That's the dream of any athlete, and it's the same for subsurfing and supping.
Well, I want to thank you and all the beautiful local people here in Puerto Rico. They've given us such a warm welcome, and we have had such an amazing time in the first 7 days of competition. And it's just paradise every day here. We thank you very much, and we're going to see you in a little bit.
Sure. Bienvenidos and welcome. Siempre.
All right, back to you, Bo and Shannon in the booth.
Thanks so much, Ben. Great to hear from the local federation and their hopes of continuing to bring great events here over the years.
Yeah, Oscar's just he was at the World Surfing Game in Biarritz, France, and that was just one of the biggest events that really pushed a lot of nations there. We had a Mexican winning for the men, and it was so exciting. Beautiful backdrop there. The majority of our paddlers are in the harbor behind the castle of San Juan Island. You can follow us online, whether on Facebook, whether on the World Wide Web at isasurf.org, and also tag us with ISA Surfing and tag us with ISA Worlds.